With the announcement of Pokemon Legends Arceus, a Pokemon spin-off game that takes place in the ancient past of the Pokemon world, my fanfictional mind kicked into high gear. I've done a lot of what-if Pokemon scenarios on my channel, to the point where right now I'm actually putting all of that creative energy into an original creature-catching game called Buddymon, #self-promotion. And the concept of a Pokemon game taking place in the past really got my imagination running. Today, I'm starting a small what-if video series that talks about other regions and ideas Pokemon could use with this type of ancient past spin-off. This is going to be a lot shorter than my other regional videos because once again, I'm knee-deep in game development of my own Buddymon world. But I still wanted to put together an idea list for what a Pokemon Legends Kalos game could be like. Let's talk about setting. 3,000 years ago, Kalos was caught in a brutal war for control. On one side was the reigning king AZ, while on the other was the king's unnamed brother, who selfishly wanted the throne for himself. Eventually, the war escalated to the point where AZ built a weapon of mass destruction, the same one that would later be used by Team Flare in Pokemon X and Y, and he activated it, thus destroying part of Kalos and ending the war. That is literally all the lore we get about ancient Kalos, and though it might seem kind of unsatisfying to have such little details about the time, the good news is that this leaves the era wide open for me to flesh it out with my own fanfictional ideas. Buckle in, because we're going to be talking gameplay, story, and even a few new Pokemon variant ideas. I think the setup for a Pokemon Legends Kalos is actually fairly easy. In the game, you would be something of a trained mercenary, fighting in the Kalos War with your Pokemon. And as one of the few people who are skilled enough to control the monsters of the land, your expertise is region-renowned. Your skill actually caught the eye of King AZ, and he enlisted your help to aid him in reuniting his realm. Gameplay-wise, catching and battling Pokemon would be reminiscent of how it's done in Pokemon Legends Arceus, as well as the mainline games. I tried to keep the gameplay as close to the classic formula as I could, but because this game is set in a primal time before things like the modern Pokeball and TMs were invented, I did end up changing around and thinking up some new mechanics that would help this game stand out. One of the big changes here is that Mega Evolution does not exist within the region, at least not yet. Lore-wise, Mega Pokemon didn't start showing up in Kalos until after the war was ended by AZ's super weapon, and seeing as how this hypothetical game takes place in the days leading up to that moment, it didn't make a ton of sense for Megas to be included. Obviously, that makes battling in Kalos a bit strange, but never fear, for I've got a twist that will help fill the Mega Evolution-sized hole in our hearts. We'll get into the nitty-gritty soon enough, but the gist of it is that your Pokemon would have an additional layer of customization through stat-affecting Pokemon armor. This is a new type of held item your Pokemon can wear that grants them additional bonuses. You would be able to craft different armor pieces with materials you find throughout the world, and then attach them to your Pokemon for various effects. For example, you could equip a piece of armor that would paralyze your opponent when the armor is broken, like a temporary static ability, or a piece of armor that protects the user from being burned. There could even be one that lowers the amount of damage the wearer takes from certain types of moves for a certain amount of battles, too. Another big change to talk about is how you go about capturing Pokemon. In Legends Arceus, we see that even in the ancient past, some form of Pokeball did exist, and so I think something similar would happen lore-wise here in Legends Kalos. We'd have some kind of primitive version of the Pokeball that ostensibly functions the same as its modern-day counterpart. The next mechanic to go over actually blends over into the locations of this hypothetical game. What I'm about to talk about is a very fundamental area you'd be spending a lot of time in, and it's something I've named the Stronghold. This is your headquarters within the story, your home base as it were, and as you progress through the game, more activities and features will begin to open up. New characters will pop in, shops will arrive to sell commerce, and side quests will become available. It's meant to feel like you're slowly building up a very thriving and lively settlement during this war-torn time. To briefly go through what establishments you'd find, build, and upgrade in your stronghold, there would be a Healer's Hut and General Store, which are located in the same shack and run by a young girl that King AZ adopted. The Enchanted Quarters is the home of the Oracle, one of AZ's most trusted advisors. They're examining an ancient book that was discovered recently to try and uncover its secrets to help win the war, and you can bring them ancient artifacts you find out in the region that they can decipher and turn into items, held items, and even materials for rare Pokemon armor. A barracks for all of AZ's troops is found close to the gate, and you'll find the lead commander here planning out strategies with his Pokémon. This is where you'll receive your primary missions from, and you can also leave your Pokémon here to train, which is the effort value training equivalent of this game. Tucked in an isolated corner of the castle is a dusty forge, only lit by the fire of its hearth. It's here you bring materials you find throughout ancient Kalos to the blacksmith, who will craft you the Pokémon armor we talked about before. I imagine there'd be quite a few variants of armor you can make, and because of how many of them break in battle, you'd find yourself often returning to the anvil to make new sets. On the outer perimeter of the castle is a giant fenced field with the monster daycare. This is the classic Pokemon breeding setup we're all familiar with, and you can leave 2 Pokemon with an elderly couple there, and over time your monsters will mysteriously make an egg. The final feature within the Stronghold is a gigantic flower-like tower in the center. This is AZ's tower, and it's where he rules the kingdom from on high. At important moments in the story, he'll summon you there to talk to him, and some people say that they've seen a strange energy glow out of the tower at night. Surely that won't play into the narrative at all, right? So that's a general overview of the Stronghold, but I do have to mention that even though this is your home base, you'll still be traveling all around the region to different towns and environments. Legends Arceus makes it a point that you're able to freely roam the environment, and I think that Legends Kalos would do the same. You'll constantly be coming back to the Stronghold to upgrade it and do story quests, but that won't stop you from exploring the vast reaches of ancient Kalos. Let's switch gears a bit. Normally, in my regional videos, I create brand new Pokemon to live throughout the region I've made in tandem with official Pokemon, but because this ancient Kalos region is kind of a special case, I've decided to handle this section a little differently. Instead of creating 100% brand new monsters for Primal Kalos, I opted to lean more into the idea of Archaic variants. Like regional variants, these are versions of existing Pokemon that have adapted in different ways and have new designs, typings, and abilities we haven't seen before. The idea with these variants is that 3,000 years ago, this is how the Pokemon originally were, before evolving over 3 millennia into what trainers can catch in the modern day. These archaic Pokemon are mixed in with a healthy dose of standard, unaltered Pokemon you can capture, so feel free to share other ideas or what your personal teams would be in the comments below. First up, we have archaic variants of Golett and Golurk. In modern times, these Pokemon are said to be clay golems brought to life by the souls of the deceased. I don't imagine there's a lot of souls to spare in the ancient Kalos days, at least not until AZ's master plan is complete, so instead of spirit energy, the region's top engineers found a way to make these clay golems run on electricity. These variants come paired with the motor drive ability, which is especially handy in their prime directive of protecting villages and castles. Next, we have a water dragon version of Skrelp and Dragalge. I always envisioned the present-day versions of these Pokemon being part poison type because they had to adapt to all the pollution in the modern era's oceans. These archaic variants are thankfully from back in the olden days, so I don't think they would be negatively impacted by any of the toxins, and they could retain what I believe would be their original typing. Aside from sporting much more vibrant designs, they have the abilities Marvel Scale and Wonder Skin, which would help deter any kind of status effects that are thrown their way, especially poison. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this one. Or maybe I am? Regardless, this is a Fairy Rock variant of the Swirlix line that leans into the idea of caramelized sugar. The Pokemon's cotton candy fluff is hardened into a sweet, jaw-breaking armor, which has made it a popular Pokemon for mercenaries to use during the ancient Kalos Wars. To really emphasize its armor, it has an ability called Rock Candy, which is akin to shell armor and protects the Pokemon from critical hits. The next variant is a Druddigon with the Dragon Flying typing. This one would be partially inspired by feathered dinosaurs and winged European dragons. During the time of Legends Kalos, these ancient Druddigon were a fearsome sight that roamed the skies. Unfortunately, excessive hunting caused them to start hiding in caves, which ultimately resulted in them losing the ability to fly. But during this game, they're very much one of the more majestic Pokemon you can encounter. They're also a lot larger than their contemporary counterparts. The joy of Pokemon fanfiction is being able to give underutilized or underpowered Pokemon an evolution. This brings us to Carbink and its new evolution, Nitrink. Carbink is based on carbon, so its evolution is based on the next element on the periodic table, nitrogen. Its body is so cold that it feels like fire when you touch it, and if it sees too much activity, it will explode into a large blast, courtesy of its unstable ability. The final new Pokemon idea is a third evolution for the Litleo line. Its name is Manticore, and as you might have guessed, it's based on the ancient legend of the Manticore. Once your Pyroar is able to evolve, you'll find that it suddenly grows wings and can soar the skies with ease. Unfortunately, one of the side effects of its evolution is that its ferocity gets amped up to the next level, which means that not only does its attack increase, but within the region, it's actually very prone to attacking and sometimes even eating the people of Old Kalos. For those trainers that can tame one of these formidable beasts, however, they're one of the strongest Pokemon to ever roam the Kalos region. To wrap up this video, I briefly wanted to talk about some of the rough story ideas and general flow I had for how this game could go. Because I've shifted most of my efforts into creating my own game with hopefully a fun and in-depth story, I didn't have a lot of time to flesh out the idea of a Legends Kalos. But I still hope this paints a picture of how it could play out if it were to ever be made into a real game. I imagine the story of this game starts right after AZ's Floette is killed as a casualty of war. He's mourning his loss and trying to think of a way to bring it back to life, and this is when he hears about you, a skilled Pokemon mercenary, and decides that in order for nothing like this tragedy to happen again, he's going to need your help. So AZ recruits you and brings you to the Stronghold. This is where you get assigned to various missions that propel the plot forwards. The missions you get sent on range from helping out towns under AZ's control that are being assaulted by his brother's army, to full-on assaulting the enemy's bases. While there aren't gyms in this game to conquer, I think the admirals of the opposing army are a good stand-in as boss figures you get to take down. With each one you defeat, you slowly start to take back more of the region, thus making it seem like you have a real chance at winning this ancient war. Eventually, as the story progresses, we get the big reveal that AZ's tower isn't just a tower, but a device he's been working on to bring his Floette back to life. Many of your missions have helped him build this machine, and a cutscene plays out where he is reunited with his beloved Pokemon after renewing its life using part of Xerneas' energy. Spirits are high at this moment in the story, but unfortunately, AZ's brother has a secret weapon up his sleeve. He's courted one of the Kalos legendaries to help his side, Yveltal, and with its power, he's begun casting ruin upon Kalos. At hearing this, AZ decides he needs a secret weapon of his own. As you go out to fend off the impending forces of war, AZ turns the machine he used to bring us back to life into a super weapon that will handily stop the feud. The final moments of the game involve you learning about AZ's machine and its nature of mass destruction, and ultimately you team up with AZ's brother in the end to try and stop it from decimating the entire Kalos region. It's a bit of a somber ending because in the end the weapon does go off, but I think this game would do a great job of giving us context and insight into AZ's mindset. The idea of a king that just wanted peace but was pushed to the brink with his Pokemon dying and deciding to take extreme measures to ensure the war finally stops. I hope it's not too edgy of an ending, but I do think it helps enhance the character of AZ that we see in the modern Pokemon games. And that's my idea for a Pokemon Legends Kalos game. I know this video was a bit shorter than my usual what-if videos, but I hope I was still able to compile some cool ideas and get everyone's imagination flowing. I'm hopefully going to do a couple more of these what-if videos for ancient regions over the next few months, and I hope you'll stick around and check out some of the cool archaic ideas that I've come up with. Now before I go, I wanted to once again plug the game I'm working on, Buddymon. It's basically me taking all of the effort and ideas I'd usually put into a what-if regional video and instead making an actual full-fledged playable game. Right now we're working hard on getting the battle system up to par, and in addition to that, there will be all sorts of Buddyverse goodness inside. Okay, thank you guys for letting me promote myself a bit at the end here. Thanks so much for watching this Pokemon video, I hope you liked it, and I'll catch you guys later in the next What If Pokemon region.